Hey Oz, what are we watching this week?
Oh, we've got the Elizabeth Taylor of movie marriages today. We've got we've got Yellowstone with a bit of Forrest Gump, Dumb and Dumber, Anchorman, The Untouchables, Thor Ragnarok, and Castaway, all mixed in. Episode 17 and the final episode of Wife's Choice is Legends of the Fall.
Wow.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, the weekly podcast where we take a monthly theme and we take turns bringing a movie to satisfy the theme. I'm one of your hosts, Oz.
And I'm Curtis.
And we are here wrapping up February, Wife's Romance Choice, with episode 17, Legends of the Fall.
Ooh la la.
Before we get into characters, I should probably explain a little bit of the 27 dresses approach to this movie marriage.
Normally our movie marriages have 3, maybe 4 titles or subjects, and that just kept going for good reason, because that's really this movie.
Yeah, if you've seen Kevin Costner's show Yellowstone, then you pretty much got a good feel for how this movie is. Jenny even kept commenting, it's like in Family Guy, where they kept going, The Simpsons did it. Did it. That's how this movie felt. Like you're watching Yellowstone, you're like, Legends of the Fall did that already. But then we got a little bit of Forrest Gump mixed in as we get into our plot. You'll see our main character Tristan seems to be everywhere of importance.
Yeah, he's a walking World Book Encyclopedia.
Yeah, absolutely. The Dumb and Dumber reference is because our lead female, Susannah, is the Freda Felcher of this love triangle that we've got going on between the brothers. Anchorman, because we've got a bear fight. Untouchables, because we touch on the Prohibition. Thor Ragnarok, because everybody needs Anthony Hopkins yelling at his sons for fighting. And Castaway, because, well, why not? He's stranded on an island at one point. So,
yeah. Despite hailing from Montana.
Exactly. He ends up, I'm going to be gone.
Now he's at an island.
I'm going to be gone a couple months. Forgot to take his calendar.
I'm a be gone.
Right. So, see ya. But any movie worth its weight cannot happen without its characters, and I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce us to those characters.
Yep, Oz brought this movie to the table this week, so it's my turn to do the character rundown. So the characters in Edward Zwick's 1994 adventure, romance, western drama.
Prohibition.
Pirate.
I'm sure there's a ghost story in here somewhere.
Legends of the Falls. Our character rundown.
Zombie movie.
we have the family patriarch, Colonel William Ludlow, played by the one and only, and once again the overacting, Anthony Hopkins.
Yep.
We have his wife, the little scene Isabel Ludlow, played by, I think it's St. Elsewhere veteran Christina Pickles.
Yes, you'll recognize her as Ross and Monica's mother in Friends.
Then we have the 3 Ludlow sons. The oldest, Alfred, played by Aidan Quinn. He is the he's the oldest child. He has all of the oldest child traits. You know, he's very responsible and quite literally buttoned up.
Yes.
He literally always has the top button buttoned. Mm-hmm. Way to go there, Edward Zwick. Pretty on the nose.
That's the hardest button to button.
And then we have the middle Ludlow child, Tristan.
Yeah.
What a name. Tristan Ludlow. Played by, peak meat, Brad Pitt.
Peak meat,
Brad Pitt.
He's your Tiger Beat cover band.
I was talking about this movie a little bit with my coworkers, most of whom are female, yesterday, and like, we're doing Legends of the Fall this weekend, and it's peak meat, Brad Pitt. and they all knew exactly what I was talking about.
Oh yeah, and you know, at any point in this movie, if you if you've got a taste for Brad Pitt, I'm sure you know he changes looks in this movie more than Barbie and Ken do. Like, he'll check your box regardless of what your box is.
And he's always sad.
Yeah,
He's so sad, so sad.
he's seen things. He's the Robin Wright. He's the Robin Wright Penn of the Forrest Gump universe.
And then we have the youngest Ludlow, Samuel, played by E.T.'s Henry Thomas. He's the most astute and well educated, and I would say the most glasses half full.
Yes,
of
and
the,
also
of the three.
and most naive.
Oh yeah, oh that's an understatement.
Yeah.
Then we have Samuel's fiancée as we begin the movie, Susannah Finkinen, played by Julia Ormond. Then we have, so those are kind of the main characters
Yeah.
here, the family, the Ludlow family. And then we have One Stab, who is William's best friend, played by Gordon Tutusis. Pet, played by Tantu Cardinal, who is a hired hand and the family ranch. Her husband, Decker, also a hired hand, played by Paul Desmond. Their child, Isabel II, played by two different actors throughout the movie. The younger actor, Sequan Auger, and older Isabel II, played by Karina Lombard. And finally, how could we leave out the bear, played by Bart the Bear of the Great Outdoors fame.
Great Outdoors fame. Yes.
Who does not show his naked hindquarters in this movie.
No, he's healed up well.
Is that a lamp? What's loaded? For all those great outdoors enthusiasts out there.
All right. Well, our plot. Pull up a cup of hot cocoa, folks, because we're taking you on a trip. Hope you paid your admission.
Yeah.
Hope you paid your admission to the amusement park, because here comes a roller coaster.
We're going on a long walk here, folks.
So we start with, we meet Colonel Ludlow at the end of his military duties. He is sick of how the government is treating Native Americans, and he takes Stab, his Cree friend, Native American, not a member of the blue-skinned alien race. Although it wouldn't surprise me if they showed up in this movie.
Yeah, everybody else is there.
Right. Yeah, not the ones helping Thanos. And they head to Montana. They're going to build a ranch, and there Colonel Ludlow and his wife have 3 sons. They're all male children. They're not giant gas balls emitting heat. You just never know. This plot's all over the place.
It is. This movie is everywhere, folks.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long before Colonel Ludlow's wife, Isabel, she just doesn't like the Montana winters, so she decides to move to the East Coast, where apparently the winters are more seasonable.
It's a healthy functioning relationship,
right.
folks.
You know, they get along better apart.
Specifically 2,000 miles apart.
Yep. And so our movie here, it tends to follow Tristan more than the other brothers.
Well, Tristan is Ludlow's favorite, Oz.
He is. At age 12, we see Tristan, the idiot, sneak up on a sleeping grizzly bear and touch it. Okay.
As one does.
And then he goes toe-to-toe with this grizzly bear. Grizzly bear, attacks him, but not before Tristan can lop off one of the bear's claws. Poor Bart the bear. We see John Candy shoot his butt off. We see baby Brad Pitt chop his finger off.
It's like the reverse of I forget the character's name from The Princess Bride, the Christopher Guest character.
Oh yeah,
because
yes. Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts now.
His fingers go to 11.
Yeah, that's right. And because Tristan is well versed in Native American traditions, all of this behavior is acceptable. Like if one of my children snuck out at night and went and fought a grizzly bear, I don't think I'd pat him on the back with a good job, Tristan.
Yeah, like Ludlow was kind of like upset with him, but One Stab, who Tristan really identifies with a lot.
Yeah.
He was proud of him.
Yeah, way to go.
Way to attack that sleeping bear, 12-year-old.
Right, nice job. So as we move forward, we see Samuel, the youngest. He's left the ranch to attend Harvard, and he has sent word that he's returning home with his fiancée, Susannah. As she steps off the train, we immediately get a sense of where this film is headed. as she is engaged to Henry Thomas. I'm probably easier for me, but just I forget that I get all their names messed up. Tristan, Alfred, and Samuel.
Samuel.
So she's engaged to Samuel. Okay, she's engaged to Henry Thomas. No, this is important. She's engaged to Henry Thomas.
Yes.
Whose older brother is peak meat Brad Pitt. Like, so she quickly realizes that she's drawn the short straw of these brothers.
Oh yeah. Alfred's taking notice, by the way,
exactly.
too.
Like
they cut to him, and he does like a double take. What? What?
He's got his tongue like scrolls out. So like I've even got here, our crazy romantic salad is not complete without some Aidan Quinn oil and vinegar dressing that nobody seems to enjoy.
Especially himself.
Right. Susannah loves Samuel, but is just absolutely captivated with Tristan, while Alfred
who wouldn't be? Oh, right. My.
Like, no matter
his shirt's always unbuttoned down to his, halfway down his chest.
And no matter which direction he's facing, the sun is behind him. Like,
yeah.
He's backlit every scene of this movie.
Well, and he comes right, like the other brothers, and Dad greet Susannah at the train, but then, Tristan being Tristan, he's too busy being wild because you can't contain Tristan, and he comes riding up over the ridge on his horse with his shirt unbuttoned down to his nips.
You wonder how long Tristan was, like, just over the hill waiting for the train to arrive. Not yet, Sky, or whatever his horse's name is. Not yet.
He's army crawling over to take a look, and then he goes back down.
It'll be just a bit longer.
Gotta wait till the sun's in the right spot.
And so they head back to the ranch, and after some time coexisting on the ranch, we've got World War, the Great War, World War I threatening on the horizon. Samuel and Alfred, being as learned as they are, they're paying attention to the news, and they just can't stand World War I unfolding without them helping. And so there's no way, we have to stop the Chancellor. And so they both announced that they're going to Canada to enlist in the war. Former Colonel Ludlow hates the idea, but he realizes he can't stop them. And Tristan does not want to go, but he promises Susannah, I'll enlist so I can protect Samuel for her. And they almost kiss, and Alfred catches them almost kissing, and we've got So in the common sense, as would normally happen, Susannah stays at the ranch instead of going home.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stick around and keep your dad company while you three go fight in the war, because I have Tristan's word that he'll protect Samuel. So nothing bad could go wrong here. We're good.
No, of course not. Yeah, everything will be fine. William's unhappy that they went off because, again, he's so disillusioned with the government.
Absolutely.
And to him, the military, I mean, which it literally is, but is an direct extension of the government. He has no faith, no trust in government. No. Again, Tristan joined, but he did it for the right reasons to protect his brother. So he's fine with Tristan.
Right. Yeah, but not Alfred.
No.
Right, not Alfred and Samuel, because they're just trying to better the world. I just want to keep my family on the ranch. Mm-hmm. So naturally then, all three brothers conveniently end up in the same battalion. Alfred's an officer in this battalion, and Alfred leads a charge that has no chance of winning. And he gets hurt, and Tristan keeps Samuel from danger. And it's kind of a comical scene because Samuel's all gung-ho, and it just seems like Tristan just keeps boxing him out. He just won't let him go. So Alfred ends up in the infirmary, and Tristan goes to visit. Actually, both are supposed to go visit Alfred in the infirmary. Samuel gets pulled off to a meeting. So Tristan goes to visit Alfred, only for Tristan and Alfred to get word that Samuel has volunteered for a reconnaissance mission. And
he won't have either of his brothers there, apparently for the first time ever in the year since they've been enlisted.
Yes. So Samuel's going to run off on a reconnaissance mission, and Tristan's not there to protect him. Tristan gives chase because that's what you got to do. and
He's
because
riding a horse through no man's land.
well, and he's doing it successfully because Tristan is a man of no rules.
You can't contain Tristan, Oz.
Despite being in the military, which is a very rule regimented organization, nothing applies to Tristan because he's better than all of them. So, like you said, he jumps on a horse. And when he gets to where Samuel finds himself tangled up in barbed wire, like he gets gassed. The Germans are there. They gas. He basically goes blind, finds himself tangled in some barbed wire, which comes into play here in a little bit. Finds himself tangled up some barbed wire, and as like from 6 feet away, the Germans set up a machine gun and just. Like,
They sunny him from the first Godfather movie. Just riddle him with bullets.
I mean, you've got a blind, barbed wire entangled single soldier. And you got 2 Germans that instead of just going up and killing him, they take the time to set up their machine gun.
Set up their high caliber machine gun.
Right. Which almost gives Tristan enough time to show up. Tristan arrives as they're machine gunning down Samuel. And then Tristan, being Tristan, takes out the 2 German soldiers, and then cuts out his brother's heart and sends it home. Probably just to let Susannah know he's okay. Don't worry, Susannah.
I told you I'd bring him home. Right. I didn't say it'd be in one piece.
His heart is still yours, Susannah. Here's proof.
Well, and he does that because one stab taught him that when someone dies, or even a creature dies, the way to free their spirit is to cut out their heart.
Yeah. And Tristan, being an adult male, still only thinks along those lines.
Literally, yes.
Yeah. So then Tristan decides, he's lost his brother and he's angry. So he goes all Batman and single-handedly takes out the entire German force and returns home with their scalps. He goes at night. He's very vigilante-like. He just goes and no guns. He just murders them all, cuts all their scalps off, returns back to camp, covered in blood, covered in scalps. And
literally dangling around his neck.
Yes, and instead of a hero's welcome, he gets discharged.
Well, the other soldiers are horrified at
what
they see.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, and yes, war is a horrible event, but even this for them is impossible to stomach.
And you could argue that, I mean, to some degree, World War I still kind of played by rules. Where, it's like when you think back to before guns got to the point where they didn't, when they were muskets and you had to take time to reload, and it seemed like, one army took turns shooting against the other army. Like World War I still kind of in some ways had that feel of we're going to meet in this place and we're just going to march towards each other and hope for the best. So for Tristan to show up and be like, don't worry, guys, I got him. You're right. This is so far and beyond what everybody else is used to in terms of warfare that you can't be here. So they just charge him but he doesn't go home. Issue I had here, the movie never touches on where he does go. Like
he just doesn't go home.
He just doesn't go home. Like, okay. So is he backpacking around Europe? Like, what's he doing?
He's staying at brothels.
Right. I hope he stays off the moors because I heard that's dangerous.
Oops.
Yeah, the director's cut has a little werewolf storyline involved as well.
Yeah. Lycanthropes.
Right. And so Alfred, he does return to the ranch. It's not necessarily post-war, but his injuries have gotten him released from his duties.
Yeah, he's sent home.
He does return to the ranch. Susannah's still at the ranch. Of course, she's heartbroken because both of her loves, Samuel is gone and Tristan never returned. So Alfred comes back to the ranch and realizing that she's sad, he proposes to her, and she's basically, ooh, no, do that.
He says, is there any? And this is, by the way. So it's Alfred and Susannah at Samuel's grave.
Yes, at the grave.
At the grave of his brother
and her fiance.
Her fiance. Is there any hope that you could learn to love me? Wow. I mean, what a
Yeah.
romantic that guy is.
While we're here,
Yeah. Hey, as long as we're here grieving your fiance and my brother, do you think
I
you could love me?
he
Because
was
I
like
love you.
he was like the inspiration for Will Ferrell's character in Wedding Crashers, who crashes funerals to try to pick up honeys.
That's the
And
sequel,
so
Funeral Crashers.
right. So she does. She basically just looks at him as, no, I don't think I could ever learn to love you. Which he's Aiden Quinn. I don't blame her. Um,
Wow, I didn't know you were a big of an Aiden Quinn hater.
well, when you've got peak meat Brad Pitt as the other brother,
That's true. You
you know,
can't you can't top peak meat.
yeah, I wouldn't tie my horse up to. I wouldn't tie my horse up to that yet. I'd wait out. Let's wait to see what Tristan returns. So, meanwhile,
I mean, he did send my fiance's heart back. So I mean,
right.
it's like a box of chocolates.
Exactly. So, and Brad Pitt, this is kind of a precursor to, he's used to boxes of body parts, his involvement. If you've seen the end of Seven, spoiler alert, he's used to a loved one being sent to him in a box. So he's just returning the favor.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? So Tristan does return home. He finds Susannah still weeping over Samuel's grave. She probably visits there often. And with Samuel out of the way, Tristan introduces her to the Kama Sutra.
Yep.
and Alfred lets Tristan know that he's angry about the relationship.
Oh yeah.
Because basically Tristan did the exact same thing Alfred did, only with more body language and less mouth language. Like, Alfred at the grave of Samuel, hey, you want to be my girlfriend? And she's like, no. Tristan shows up and he's like, oh, I figured I'd find you here. Let's go back.
Let's make sweet love.
Right. Let's go back to wherever, the barn, and I'll show you some things.
Maybe that's where he was in that year after being discharged.
He's probably in India learning all the moves of the Kama Sutra. So Alfred is angry and he leaves the ranch for Helena because it's time for me to make something of myself. Which really, he never really fit the ranch lifestyle anyway.
No.
He did, and he did what he was supposed to, but he was not a rancher. He was, like you mentioned earlier, he's a buttoned up individual, and Helena, Montana is the place to be if you're going to be a buttoned up individual.
When I think commerce and politics, like the center of the democratic capitalistic world, I think Helena, Montana.
I do.
That's where he goes.
Yeah.
Apparently, for white collar buttoned up people, that's the center of it for the upper Midwest.
And for those you listeners out there, you may feel like, wow, he's just flying through the plot here. Like, and yes, I have this all written in paragraph form because I didn't want to miss anything, because it's possible you could miss 20% of the plot of this movie and still know exactly what's going on, but it's so just wild that it's important that they're all there, because this is one of those that if let's pretend your teacher in high school gave you a book report and you didn't read the book, but you just made up things as you're going along. You're just ad-libbing and improving as you go along. You could end up telling the plot of this movie and it would sound completely off the wall, but it all is in there. It's all happened.
The guy dies, and then she's like his brother, and the other brother's like, okay, and
then he cuts his heart out and sends it to her in a box, and
that'd be cool.
And the older brother wants to like make out, but she doesn't want to. But then the younger brother comes and he wants to make out, and she's all for it.
And the older brother's like, but I love her,
right.
And then I'm gonna go and start a business.
And then Brad Pitt can like make his hair really long and real short, and real long and real short again, and it's totally fine. And then so
and then he becomes a pirate.
Right. I almost put Princess Bride in there. I do mention Dread Pirate Roberts.
Dread Pirate Roberts, yeah. Dread Pirate Tristan.
So so Alfred's out of the way, Samuel's out of the way, so Tristan and Susannah can be together. They're happy with life. They live on the ranch doing ranch things. until
Bum bum bum.
Tristan comes across a cow tangled in barbed wire, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but this incident really triggers his PTSD, and he decides that he needs to leave the ranch to clear his head for a couple of months. Susannah doesn't want him to go, but he needs to. And he forgot to set a reminder on his phone to come home, and he ends up being gone for several years.
Yeah, he says couple of months.
She even asks him, well, how long do you think you'll be gone? Probably just a couple months. Years later, Susannah...
She says she'll wait for him, too, by the way.
Yeah, and she does. She literally stays on the ranch with Papa Colonel, and she's going to wait. While gone, he tried his hand at being the Dread Pirate Roberts. He hung out with the actual Cree on another island. I figured because their skin was blue. He saw a zebra. He saw a zebra heart, which triggers more PTSD. Like he's on this bender, man. Triggers more PTSD, and he really took himself on what I call a Jenny from Forrest Gump trip. And he eventually writes to Susannah and tells her that whatever is between them is dead, and she should stop waiting for him and go marry another. He's on this like Asian boat orgy at one point. Like
it's the way it's filmed. It's like an acid trip.
It really is.
It's just like one thing to another, and then he's in a boat orgy, and then there's elephant tusks, and
he's like he's crying like.
Yeah, he's always crying. He's so sad, Oz. He's so sad.
So sad, Tristan.
He's so sad.
So back on the ranch, Alfred realizes, here's my chance again. Because, Alfred pounces when the heart is most broken.
Great timing, that, Alfred.
Right. Alfred's like, okay, well, I figured when you were heartbroken over my youngest brother that I could make a move on you. But now that you're heartbroken over both of them, you're so broken down and destitute that I bet you'll give me a chance. So he consoles...
Alfred is the dustpan of this movie.
Yeah. And
to sweep the broken pieces of other people into it.
Right. So Alfred consoles Susannah, and Colonel Ludlow is ticked off about it.
Oh, he's upset.
Very upset.
Well, Alfred, he went back to the ranch with a bunch of buddies from Helena.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And he asked for his father's blessing to run for office. Like, I've met these people, including these guys named the O'Banion brothers.
Yeah, they really believe in me.
Yeah. And the Colonel, William, he wants nothing of it. Like, what are these guys going to get out of your success? Like, why are they here?
Yeah,
why
he just tells them how it is. They bbelieve in you because there's something in it for them.
Yeah.
And, of course, Alfred, this is the first time Alfred's had anybody believe in him. And so for him, he's all, well, they're my yes men, and this is great.
Yeah, he and his father never had a good relationship. And, there wasn't any support there because William poured all of his time into Tristan.
Right.
Because he was the only one that he really liked. And to him, again... government is I get the sense that William's like a libertarian.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just let me do what I need to do.
Yes, yeah. No government. Government is bad.
Right.
And Alfred, his goals and aspirations are the exact opposite of what William wants for his sons.
Yeah, absolutely. And so they naturally don't get along. But Alfred does win over Susannah. They move to Helena. They get married. Meanwhile, again, in your made-up book report world, Colonel Ludlow has a stroke, the ranch goes to crap, beef prices drop, and Tristan is still gone.
No word, years pass.
Alfred is now a congressman, now doing shady congressman things during the Prohibition. The O'Banion brothers are like moonshine runners, like they're, so here... And Alfred's aware of all of it. Like, it's the Prohibition. It's an amendment to the Constitution. And he's totally fine with his cronies, and the racket and gin running that they're doing. And so it's just a shady congressman. But guess who comes back?
Then you get the sequence where there's the ridge and a bunch of horses right over it.
Exactly.
And one stab can feel it. He can feel that Tristan's near.
Right.
And
it's like I was waiting for him like to go to that stereotypical like one step gets on the ground and puts his ear to the ground, like
Yeah.
to listen for Tristan. But yeah, so Tristan returns a new man, and he immediately gets the ranch repaired, like immediately.
Yeah, William shuffles up. He shuffles out. Tristan hugs him, and I made a note here, and and at this point in the movie, and I'm watching this with Melissa, and I just turn to Melissa and say, "All he does is cry. What a wiener! What a wiener!
Just a crying wiener.
Yeah, cry baby, Tristan. What a wiener!
You do cry, you cry, baby.
Cry baby. You couldn't save you couldn't save your brother. You cut out his heart. You tried to you slept with his fiance. What a wiener!
Right. What a
Quit crying.
wiener. So, well, and here you mentioned a character in the characters, Isabel
Yes.
too. We haven't mentioned her yet. There was a kind of a cute little conversation foreshadowing the darkest shadows foreshadowing could offer. Earlier in the movie, when Susannah and a very young Isabel too are talking, and Isabel too just tells her, "I'm going to marry Tristan." She's even as like a 10-year-old, she's like, yeah, he's peak meat. I'm ready.
That's my meat. That's my man.
Right. So Isabel too, who again, the youngest daughter of ranch hands, is now old enough to be with. So Tristan marries her, and they pop out a couple kids.
And I will say, she's peak meat too, Oz.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's yeah. Yeah. She's taking care of herself in the years of development.
Yes, except these two gorgeous people who are now together.
Yeah. And they pop out a couple of kids, and like I mentioned, beef prices are down, so Tristan turns to some small-time bootlegging to make some money because the ranch isn't cutting it anymore. And in the meanwhile, he crosses paths with the O'Banion brothers, the big-time bootleggers in Helena, and they just tell him, the sheriff's on their side, they got the police in their pocket, and they just tell him, hey, the only reason you're still alive is because your brother is a congressman. And that next time we cross paths, we're going to kill you if we see you working again. So Alfred and Susannah, well, we get an instance early, where Tristan goes to Helena to actually go see Alfred. Yeah. Susannah's she's kind of out hanging up laundry, as you do when you're a congressman's wife. And so they talk. They, I won't say rekindle anything, but they come face to face and they talk. And I'm sure Tristan cried later. But so Susannah has seen Tristan and doesn't tell Alfred, but she knows he's back.
Apparently, on a side note here, Oz, Julia Ormond and Brad Pitt apparently like while they were filming this, shared a house near
I
the
read
set.
that, yeah.
And apparently, Julia Ormond and Brad Pitt got to know each other very well and very frequently on the set of this movie.
I wouldn't be surprised if their lovemaking scene earlier was home footage. Little Pam and Tommy.
One of the trivia things I read, and again, this is a trivia note on IMDb, so you could question the truth of it, but it's
100% true. It's on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. And the scene earlier in the movie where they were making sweet love after after seeing each other at his brother's grave,
right?
That after the crew left, they actually
rehearsed. They just went ahead and rehearsed it again. They went live with it.
So there's legit sexual tension between not only the characters but the actors.
Well, and and tension that they've relieved often, and so and you're Julia Ormond. I mean, you're looking at peak meat Brad Pitt, and you're like, well, okay, if he's up for it, why not? I don't know the relationship status of either one of them at this point in time, but whatever, they're adults. Even if Tristan still acts like a child.
He's crying.
And so we're at the fair. I don't know if it's the Montana State Fair or the Helena County Fair. I don't care.
Whatever.
So Alfred and Susannah cross paths with Tristan and Isabel too, and their family. And it's the first time they've all seen each other. Of course, like I said, Tristan and Susannah have seen each other, but as families together. And I thought it was a pretty, actually I don't mean sweet scene as wow, sweet, but it was a pretty sweet and endearing scene as their family bond appeared to be strong with the brothers. And really everyone except Susannah, who's just literally staring at what might have been.
Yep.
Like, if she would have hung on and actually waited, she's literally looking at what might have been. So I can understand why she...
In addition to that, as she's looking at one of the children at what might have been, that child's name is Samuel.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
So she's looking at the child, which could have been hers with Tristan, and then looking at the child who reminds her of her first fiance.
Right. And looking at the wife of Tristan, who is a little girl that she's known, like, you know, it's for years. She lived on the ranch for years with them. So she knows who she is. And living there for years, she saw her develop into what she's becoming. We didn't see Isabel 2 until Tristan saw Isabel 2. But as long as Susannah was there, you know, it's not like Isabel 2 stayed little girl form until she moved off, you know.
I also have in my notes really quick. We mentioned earlier that when Alfred first saw Susannah, he kind of had like the wolf tongue lapping thing. Tristan does the same thing when he sees grown up Isabel too.
Oh
like,
yeah,
like
absolutely.
He runs into her in the barn. Like
they're like the
takes care of a
stables
horse
or whatever.
Yeah, so like they're both in their element, you know, with the animals and whatnot. And he does another like what double take.
I was expecting them to cut straight to another like Kama Sutra scene, only with Isabel too, like shot for shot. This is what Tristan does when he meets a new woman. He just takes her straight to Pound Town.
But like it also shows just how like kind of emotionally stunted that these brothers are, and and how distant of a father William is, and you know, growing up basically without a mother there, and no
mother, you know, and just growing up on the ranch. There's the only woman that was there was
Pat.
With Pat, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you've got but she's married, and I mean but she's also so much older that she's, you know, I won't call her motherly to them, but more like an aunt, like, you know, she helped raise them or whatever. So there's no mom, there's no female. I mean, they're complete amateurs in this regard. And so we've got this scene where they cross paths. And as you know, they wish each other well, and right before they leave, you know, the O'Banion bootleggers, they see Tristan deliver some booze, you know, so it's and they see it, and you know, he's delivering a crate and getting some money, and you know, he wasn't trying to hide it. Tristan wasn't, and he did it kind of right there in broad daylight, and so they've got a plan. We told them next time we see you working. So they set up on the way home. You know, it's the O'Banions and the sheriff and another officer. And when the car pulls up, the officer just starts firing his machine gun in the air to scare him. But he strikes and kills Isabel too. Tristan goes all Eric Draven on him.
He drops from the ceiling like Sting.
He does. He goes all crow on him before being stopped.
Can't rain all the time.
It takes all of them. It takes all of them to stop him.
But he beats the guy almost to death. The guy with the Tommy gun.
Right. You know, they end up clubbing him over the head. You know, and then they go their separate ways. And Alfred has the nerve, has the audacity to come to the ranch and tell Tristan, "Hey, we're going to need you to serve 30 days in jail for what you did to that cop." You know, no, doesn't even seem to be just authentically remorseful of the fact that, my buddies stepped way out of their zone and killed your wife, but you beat up a cop, so you're going to have to serve some jail time.
Well, he did say that the officer was reprimanded.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
He was reprimanded.
Yeah. He's really sorry.
Yeah. He had to work. He had to do desk work for a week.
So Tristan's like, okay, fine. You know, I'll serve my time. And
I have in my notes here. I'll jump in and
go ahead.
Move the plot ahead as well. Susannah visits him in jail. Because you know she's you know she's just guilty. Like she feels guilty for everything that's happened.
Right.
And she walks in and Tristan's already crying. Because he's been crying. I put in my notes.
It's probably on day 28.
Yeah. I put in my notes. Tristan's wiener crying again.
I didn't bother to look. Did they put him in a room with a floor drain?
They should have.
Susannah comes in and somehow he's drowning in a cell. He's crying so much that the water level is rising, even though it's an open cell.
So yeah, he's wiener crying us again. He feels so guilty too. Everyone feels guilty in this movie.
Yeah, and she professes her love to Tristan in the worst way possible by telling him, you know, hey, I love you so much. I was hoping Samuel and Isabel too would both die so that we could be together. Like, what? Like, I mean, I tell my wife I love her all the time, but I never tell her, like, I hope your boss dies in a fire accident so you don't have to work today. That's how bad I want you home with me. Like, I had a couple of snow days, and I really hope your workplace burns to the ground so you don't have to go to work.
Well, I mean, it also we haven't talked too much about like the backgrounds of these characters. I think earlier in the film it was revealed that Susannah's parents died, and she was almost
I missed that. I did
almost
miss that.
she was almost kind of taken in by by the Ludlow mother out there, because it seems like the mother knew her very well. It's like because there was like letters back and forth between
I totally missed
between
that. Crap.
Isabel and William.
I got to change my
Don't start wiener crying on the eyes.
Right. Sorry.
So sad, like Tristan.
Yeah,
so
well,
sad.
No one's referred to me as peak meat, so
I bet Jenny would say otherwise.
I don't know.
Peak meat eyes.
She would say so, but I don't know if the circus mirror we have in our bathroom would justify that.
Circus mirror.
And so, yeah. And, Susannah and Tristan, they hug it out through the bars. They just hug it out.
Hug it up, bro.
Right. Bring it in. So,
we get a weird sequence next here.
I was going to say, like, so far it seems really up to this point, okay, there's some zaniness happening, but really, like, the final turn of this race is really where things go.
Yeah, there's some loop-de-loops here.
So Tristan's jail time is done, and he and the boys, they plot a hit on the crew that killed Isabel too. Tristan finds himself in the basement of a Jack Daniels distillery, apparently. Just barrels everywhere, and he ends up in a fight with one of the bootleggers before impaling him on a pitchfork.
Yeah. Like a very dull-looking pitchfork.
Well, and I love this because, I'm a big horror movie fan. I understand how pitchforks work if you're going to impale somebody. And to impale someone on a pitchfork, they need to be parallel with the ground, perpendicular to the wall. Like, how is this pitchfork hanging? Because if it's just hanging, you can't impale somebody on a pitchfork because the tines are pointed down. But apparently they leave their pitchforks perpendicular to the wall and find himself, impaled on a pitchfork. Meanwhile, and really a sad moment, there's a political party going on in their home, and Susannah excuses herself from a political party, returns to her room, cuts her hair. Was she scalping herself? Like, what was going on here?
The impression I got was that she hadn't cut her hair since Tristan left, because her hair was super long at this point.
It was super long. Yeah,
and so I think
she Loretta Lynn.
Like she cuts it kind of to the length that it was when she and Tristan first parted ways, when he went on his pilgrimage or whatever. Right. And then out of nowhere, Oz.
Yeah.
She just picks up a gun and shoots herself.
Yeah, just like it's just sitting there.
Boom. Yeah, she just happens to have a pistol just sitting there.
Right. Yeah,
and she's gone.
Yep, that's it. That's the end.
There goes Susannah.
Oh, Susannah.
She gone.
Like, was the gunshot loud enough to interrupt the party? Like, we don't know.
I don't think so.
They cut away from it.
I don't think so.
Joe, did you hear that? No, I didn't hear it.
Harumph.
It's days later before they find her. So Alfred, Alfred returns to the ranch with Susannah's casket so they can bury her on the ranch. While there, he and Tristan are tense again.
Yeah.
as Alfred knows that she's always loved him. Like Alfred realizes he was the least common denominator of the brothers. Like
Yeah.
you're engaged to the first one you met, you fell in love with the second one you met, and I'm the consolation prize.
He's the last one standing.
Yeah, this is the $1,000 you get for losing Wheel of Fortune. His name's Alfred.
He's the at-home game.
Right. Thanks for coming, but you lose. And so Alfred's home. Well, the sheriff and the remaining bootleggers show up. They show up at the ranch.
Yeah, and just prior to that, Tristan and William are sitting in the kitchen table talking.
Oh yeah, well, trying to.
Well, yeah, because
I forgot.
Anthony Hopkins.
I haven't mentioned it all since, but Anthony Hopkins' character, Colonel Ludlow, had a stroke, and every scene that he's in, he's stroking. Like,
It's apparently he's having another one every time he's on camera.
every time.
And I hope that doesn't come across as cruel to us, but like
No.
it's Anthony Hopkins overacting.
Yes, yeah. This isn't. He doesn't do any justice to actual people who have survived a stroke. Like, you know,
He is a caricature.
exactly. That's just the word I was gonna say. He's definitely hamming it up here. And so we also see earlier in the movie, Tristan brings he brings Colonel Ludlow a puzzle. The puzzle is a gun. He brings it to him in pieces, and after his stroke, he's literally spending like the rest of the movie trying to put this gun together. But the sheriff and the bootleggers show up. They're going to kill Tristan because we've had enough of you. And Tristan gets it. You know what? Can you take me to the woods so that my children don't have to see me die? Okay. And then Colonel Ludlow, who's been struggling with his Tristan gifted shotgun, he's got it put together now. He comes out of the house and just kills 2 of the 3 bad guys standing there. The others just stand around and wait their turn to pull their gun. When the sheriff pulls his gun to shoot Ludlow, Tristan then Frank Farmer jumps in front of Alfred.
No.
Tristan's going to jump in front of Alfred. Or no, he's going to jump in front of Colonel Ludlow.
Yes.
So that his dad doesn't get shot by the sheriff, only for the sheriff to just be blown away by Alfred, who apparently has been hiding behind a barn the entire time.
Yeah, I have in my notes, literally, where the hell was Alfred? Like, where was he this whole time?
Like, these are his guys.
Yeah.
And I would think at any point he could have stepped out and been like, whoa, 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 whoa.
I'm the politician here. You guys work for me.
Let's settle down. We'll take care of this. But yeah, he shoots and kills him. He kills the sheriff, not Tristan. It's important that we name all this because there's so many people firing guns and who knows who's getting shot. And luckily, because of this Ludlow family, they all love each other again. Realizing he'll be sought after for these murders, because your dad's had a stroke and your brother's a congressman. So clearly, Tristan, you're the one that killed these people. Even though Tristan, I don't think Tristan killed any of them, did he?
No. And William hugs Alfred, so it's the first time that William has shown Alfred any kind of affection since like the beginning of the movie.
Exactly.
And it's because Alfred killed someone.
Yeah. Way to go! You're finally a Ludlow.
Come here, you! You shot the sheriff.
Don't worry, I shot the deputy.
Yeah, there you go. There's a softball for you.
So Tristan, realizing he's gonna be guilty for these murders, he asks Alfred if he could take care of his children while he basically goes into hiding. Alfred, of course, agrees. I'd love to. And then we see Tristan growing old, and he ends up with a fight with another grizzly bear.
We cut to 40 years later.
Yeah. But Tristan hasn't been missing for 40 years. It's like he's been that old, like the old coot that just hangs out in the woods. Like Stab's narrating the movie, by the way. He's pretty much narrating the whole thing. But he comments that he's watched his kids grow up, and it's like, but there's no way you did it as a civilian. Like, you're on the run. So Tristan, as a 40 years older and looking like a bear trainer.
Suspiciously not like Brad Pitt.
Not like Brad Pitt.
Uh-huh.
And we've seen what Brad Pitt looks like older because we've all seen Curious Case of Benjamin Button, so we know what an old Brad Pitt looks like. So Tristan grows old and ends up checking out a death of an animal in the woods, and another grizzly bear attacks him. And they go toe to toe, they fight, and freeze frame.
They go toe to where a toe should have been.
Right. Yeah. I'm assuming this is not the same grizzly bear that when he was 12, because this would be like the longevity of this life of a grizzly. It's incredible because it was already a full-grown grizzly when Tristan was 12. And now he's like 60, and this grizzly's just waiting, biding his time in the woods.
Plotting revenge.
So, and we get a freeze frame as Stab narrates that it was a good death.
Yep.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, if you were trying to follow along, this would have looked like a map of Six Flags Great America. Because it was all over the place.
Oh my God.
And that is a Legends of the Fall.
That's Legends of the Fall, the 1994 Edward Zwick action, adventure, drama, western, whatever. All of the above. War movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adventure film.
Uh-huh.
Prohibition.
Yes.
There you go.
All right, well, at this point of the show, folks, as Oz and I recollect ourselves from that dizzying experience...
I've talked for 51 minutes now about this movie.
But you haven't really said anything.
I felt like I just started.
Yeah. So at this point of the movie, Oz and I give our own unique rating as to the film we watched and reviewed. Oz, how would you review Legends of the Fall?
6. Just 6.
6.
Yeah, there's too many things there's too many things I could call 6 something, but I don't know. It's 6.
6
Brad.
All.
6 Brad Pitts.
6 peak meek Brad Pitts.
There you go.
I'm going with 53 bear claws.
Ooh,
but the pastry, not the actual claw.
The pastry, yeah.
The pastry.
I was like, yeah, it's got to be the pastry.
Yeah. It's like I got to get some sugar in me while I watch this movie to keep me going. The bear claws will do. All right, and as we conclude our show here, folks, we have the 3-2-1, where Oz and I each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 from the film we watched. So, Oz, what are 3 goods that you drew from 1994's Legends of the Fall?
Well, this did win the Oscar for cinematography. It was a beautiful film.
Yep.
Period piece, but they did a great job with it. A very beautiful film. Won the Oscar, so there's really not a whole lot I could say. Everybody else thought the cinematography was great as well. That's my first good. Second good, hunky Brad Pitt.
Yep.
There is likely a version of Brad Pitt in this movie for everybody. You've got long-haired ruffian Brad Pitt. You've got drugged out Brad Pitt. You've got buttoned up suit wearing Brad Pitt. You've got soldier Brad Pitt. It's
but he's gorgeous. Every version of him is gorgeous.
He is. The only issue I had with any Brad Pitt point of this movie is there was one scene in particular, don't even remember where it was somewhat early on, where he had a mustache, and it was so obvious that this was a fake mustache.
I think I remember that, yeah.
It just looked like it was glued on. Other than that, though, good for Brad Pitt. I had read somewhere that, and I could agree to this, that Brad Pitt really he's a character actor with a leading man's face. And so I do really enjoy a lot of Brad Pitt's roles.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
He's a great actor. And so many of them, of his roles that he picks, really force him to act. You get into, a lot of leading men in Hollywood. You could say that, virtually every Denzel Washington performance is the same thing. Except for Training Day, and he won the Oscar for it, because it's Denzel is the same. It feels like he's the same in every role. Tom Cruise is...
Yeah, I was waiting for Tom Cruise to come up.
He's the same in every role. But, it works. It gets people in the seats. Even in his time, Bruce Willis was the same in every role. Schwarzenegger, Stallone, etc. But, really, Brad Pitt is one that he really does challenge himself and stretches his ability levels. You could say, in some degree, like DiCaprio does a lot of that as well. They really challenge themselves as leading men to take roles that really like hone their craft as opposed to just show up for a paycheck. And so, I don't remember who said it, but it was something, that I read somewhere of like, Brad Pitt really is, he's a character actor with a leading man's face. And so good for him. So that's my second is hunky Brad Pitt.
As opposed to a character actor with Steve Buscemi's face.
Exactly. There's a reason why your Steve Buscemi's and Brian Dennehy's are in a lot of things, but they're they just can't carry it themselves. And my third good, and I know this seems a little goofy just because we kind of feel like we've been teasing the movie, is the craziness. I love the craziness of this movie. There's a 2-hour runtime. And there are times that it does feel long, but there's so much going on. I was expecting to be bored in parts of this movie just because it kind of has a reputation for feeling long, but there's so much going on that I was not bored. While the movie lost touch with the heavy-handed plot line once Tristan left for years, it certainly filled the runtime with things to do. They weren't cutting to Susannah sitting and waiting for years. Like, they just kept moving. Like, all right, Tristan's off, so we got to fill the void with something. And so the craziness of this movie is my third good. It was all over the place.
It was. Oh, God, this movie was everywhere.
What about you?
My three goods. The first act was solid. I'll say that. The first act, I think, laid the groundwork as far as plot goes. It pulled me in. There's these three brothers, and it established their relationship and kind of the history, and this father who's trying to distance himself from the world, and kind of this struggle amongst him and the three brothers as far as who they are and finding their own identities. And then you throw Susannah into the mix. There's some interesting things there in the first act, at least, until things really kind of went bananas.
Yeah.
My second one is I love the distinct personalities amongst the three brothers. Again, you have the conservative straight shooter, oldest child, Alfred, the wild man who identifies with nature in Tristan, and then the erudite, educated, proper, naive Samuel. So they're all brothers, they all love each other, but they all had very distinct personalities.
Samuel seemed to be really good at pickleball. Did you see? I felt like they were playing pickleball early in the movie.
Yeah, it was like it's like a homemade tennis court, but it did feel very very pickleball-esque.
Yeah.
By the way, pickleball underrated.
I know it is. That's why I mentioned it. I know you're a big pickleball fan.
I haven't played in years, but when in high school PE, that was one of the things I always looked forward to the most was pickleball.
I enjoyed pickleball.
It's like if you like Ant-Manned yourself and shrunk yourself down, and like we're standing on the ping pong table. It's like you're playing ping pong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like ping pong and grown. You either shrink yourself or you enlarge ping pong.
Whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Right.
And my last good, I'm gonna credit Melissa, my wife, with this one, and this is a quote from her: "Two boobs from two different women." So that to her, that's a good.
Oh yeah, we did get boobs, didn't we?
Yeah, but
it's such a small.
Well, and technically it's plural, but it was one boob from one woman, one boob from another woman.
And in both scenes, you still find yourself looking at Brad Pitt.
Yeah, right. Because
like you said that.
Yeah,
you said it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess there was. I was too busy.
Yeah, I was too busy looking at Brad Pitt, gawking at him, because it was him. Because of course it couldn't have been Samuel. He wouldn't have known where to start. And Alfred
couldn't. He couldn't pull a boob if he tried.
No, he couldn't. He was too busy fumbling with the buttons on his own shirt.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't even put that together. That it was Tristan with both boobs.
That's right. It's like women's clothes just fall off when Tristan's around.
Oz, what were your two bads?
My two bads. I'm sure this probably shows up in your list of alternative bads, but post-stroke Ludlow.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Hopkins is a very fine actor, God. And there are times when he just cannot dial it down. Earlier this month, Dracula had an Anthony Hopkins problem, and I feel this movie does too.
You beat me to it.
And so post-stroke Ludlow, it just it's like it's like he's making fun of stroke victims.
It's again, I think we used the word caricature earlier, but like he just, yeah, he there's no subtlety to it, there's no
Right.
dignity to it. It's what he thinks it is,
Yeah.
and it's one of those, you get the feeling he probably didn't do a lot of research on this. He didn't talk with any stroke victims, any
No.
people who have kind of reestablished their lives, have gone through occupational therapy, these
Right.
kinds of things.
No. He's still riding high from Oscar winner Anthony Hopkins. This is just a couple of years after Silence of the Lambs, and so he's still being offered roles that could have gone to elsewhere, but he's still riding high of his Hannibal Lecter, which, in fairness, he did play that movie very reserved. So there you go, Sir Anthony Hopkins. Tone it down. Your best roles are when you
Yeah.
can contain yourself.
Tone it down, Tony. Was his character born American? Because his British accent was there.
It was there. I don't know.
I think his character was born American, but like,
Yeah.
whatever. It's Tony Hopkins.
Whatever. Yeah. We're not here to watch him anyway. We're here to watch Brad Pitt.
I know, right?
My second bad is this movie takes place over years.
Yes.
How come only Isabel 2 and Colonel Ludlow seem to age?
That's right.
And
Yeah.
Ludlow only ages once he has a stroke, but they're the only two characters in this entire movie that age. They do show one stab with gray hair at the end of the movie.
Susannah's
But-
hair gets longer, but she doesn't
Right.
age.
But in terms of like physical appearance, none of them age. And this movie takes place over years.
Yeah, it's like a
Now-
20-year span. And,
Yeah,
and then
I
you,
mean-
and then you have that time jump for the last 2 minutes. But
Yeah, it's like I look different now than I did 20 years ago. I can't say it's totally different, but I could tell the difference. So that's my second bad. It was just like, really? Like, you couldn't age anyone else over the course of this movie. Because, we have to keep Brad Pitt appealing. We can't show him age, because then he won't be sexy. That was
peak
my
meat,
two.
Brad Pitt.
Peak meat.
Peak meat. My
Would you
two-
what
Yeah.
what Brad Pitt performance is? I mean, really, he's peak meat in so many of them.
pretty much just about anything, any 90s Brad Pitt. Thelma and Louise, which is really his kind of breakout role.
Oh, yeah.
He's shirtless in that movie and
It's
oiled
a very
up.
small. It's a very small role. Like,
But he's supposed to be like the sexy guy in that movie, and,
yeah.
and he
I'd say
nails it.
12 Monkeys is probably the one that if you watch 12 Monkeys and are like, wow, then you probably shop at Hot Topic.
But then you also got Fight Club, which I think was 99. So you
Yeah.
begin the decade with Thelma and Louise, and you end
Right.
it with
Yeah.
with Fight Club, where he's just chiseled.
Oh yeah.
Like it's
And
like
he
it's
was-
like gr- like
and he
gr-
was-
like a sculpture walking around.
Right, and he was great in there's a Coen's Brothers movie, Francis McDormand, which doesn't. I mean, every Coen Brothers movie's got it.
That's true.
But it's like he works at a health club. I've seen it. I just can't remember the name of
Oh
it.
yeah. There's a GIF of it.
Yeah. Oh, he's so good in that movie.
Oh, I'm
He's just-
totally
he's
blanking
just-
on it.
He's just an airhead in that
Yeah.
movie. So I'll look it up while you give your two bads.
Yeah, my two bads. Like the first one is that the message this movie gives is like to love is to suffer. Like you can't love someone without suffering in this movie. Like even and not even just romantically. Like William can't love two of his three sons.
Right.
Like he and Isabel, his wife, they can't love each other the right way. They live 2,000 miles apart for most of the movie. And the Samuel death, and how much that weighs on the character, and you can't just love someone in this movie. There has to be a reason, some kind of traumatic reason why. Like why love exists or why a relationship exists in this movie, and it's very unnatural and very unsettling to me. My other one is, I'm scrolling back in my notes here because there was a line early in the movie that I pegged to me that really summarizes my opinion of this movie as a whole. And it's early in the movie. The brothers have just committed to going to war, and Tristan and Susannah are having their own little private moment, and they almost kiss, and Alfred walks in on them. But before Alfred walks in, it's Tristan and Susannah, and there's a portrait of Isabel on the wall, and you know, and she looks at this portrait and kind of asks Tristan, like, what is this? What does this mean? Like who is this? Tell me more about it. And why does she live so far away? And Tristan says that William and Isabel loved the idea of each other. They didn't love each other, they loved the idea of each other. And
Right.
to me, it's like I love the idea of this movie, but I don't love this movie. Like this film could have been so much more before it just went bonkers and just went
Hmm.
off the rails. And like the narrative is just all over the place. And
Yeah.
it, again, I love the idea of the movie, but the execution of it is just awful. I don't know, Oz, do you have a take on that?
Yeah, and I can definitely see that. That's very insightful there. I tend to oh you've known me long enough as a movie fan that I'm willing to ride any ride out there.
Sure.
And try I've always tried not to be I try not to be too critical and for like damnation's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes bad is bad. You and I, we fell asleep to a movie several years ago where it was zombies in a wrestling match. I don't remember the name of it, but it doesn't matter because it was just bad.
Mm-hmm.
So there are times where bad is bad, but I also know you and I are big enough movie fans that you know we know that the Toxic Avenger is bad, but that's why we love it.
But that's why it's awesome.
Right. We know that Sergeant Kabuki Man is bad, and that's why we love it. We know that the story of Ricky is bad, and that's why we love it. And so, and it's like even last night I was flipping through. We finished watching, Jenny and I started rewatching The Walking Dead again, just because, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was good at one point, and we
Yeah, the first
forgot.
several seasons were very
Yeah.
good.
So we rewatched it because we wanted to remember what it was like when it was good. And afterwards, I hopped over to Plex and was just flipping through, or no, Pluto TV. I was just flipping through channels, and I usually stop at the horror channels, and I need to stop because one horror channel is like nothing but a rerun, just a repetition of Halloween 6, H2O, and Halloween 7. And they just rotate those three, and then It Follows will be on there somewhere. And so I kept scrolling down, and on the 80s channel was The Last Dragon.
Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon.
Yes, Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon, which oh god, I love that movie, but it's awful. And so it is difficult to at times like be a movie snob without being a movie snob. And so this is a long way around to answer your question, but like I said, one of my goods was just how crazy this movie was. It was like once I recognized it was going off the rails, I was willing to see where it took me. I'm like, let's go for this ride. I'm for it, because the alternative would have been a very melodramatic, a lot of, because it was a beautifully shot film. I would much rather have seen the zaniness that it took me on than to watch Susannah look off into the sunset waiting for Tristan to, like a lot of the things where it could have gone.
One of the 8 times that he returns to the ranch riding over the hill.
Exactly. It's like, it's just, so for what it was, it's like, it wasn't a great movie, but I enjoyed it. And like I've said before, I enjoyed it because, one, my wife Jenny recommended it. And she even said, she goes, this is not her favorite movie. But once she knew it's a movie I hadn't seen before and she wanted to share that experience with me. And so, like I did for The Bodyguard, I didn't take notes while I read it. I just sat and held her hand and we watched this movie together. And yes, there were times when I just kind of scratched my head. I was like, what? But that's par for the course in a 2-hour movie that could have been a half-hour episode of something. And so, but no, I definitely see what you get. You love the idea of what this movie could have been, but it just didn't quite deliver. And we could do an entire year's worth of podcasts of movies that fit that mold as well. You know, great idea, poor execution.
Yeah.
And so, as wrestling fans, we both have our favorite gimmicks that just didn't work, despite all of the potential in the world. It just didn't work. And so, kind of that moment. But still, I understand, and that was a very long-winded answer to your question. That's what you get for asking me.
I know, I should know better than that. So, Oz, what's your for Legends of the Fall?
Right. Well, I had to change my because originally my was, why didn't Susannah? Where are Susanna's family, and why didn't she just go home? I missed the part of the movie where they referenced that. So
it was very brief. It was a very brief mention.
So I changed mine to something we already mentioned, a few minutes ago. Is why didn't Alfred step in at the end when his cronies showed up to kill his family? Like, he went and hid behind a barn.
Until 2 of the 3 guys were dead.
Yeah, until he could get a cheap shot on somebody that didn't know it was coming. So that's my house. This could have been solved diplomatically, I suppose, but no, he's a Ludlow at heart. So he's now a true Ludlow, as he's killed a man.
I gotta win my father's love back by killing someone.
By killing his potential killer.
Yeah. So my and you and I talked about this a little bit pre-show, is that this movie really tries to honor Native American culture. I think it's Cree in particular is the tribe, as well as even some of the cultures you see around the world. At one point, Tristan makes a stop in Papua New Guinea, and a stop in I don't think they indicate where exactly in Africa, but to me it falls flat. I understand what they were trying to do, Ludlow's best friend is one stab, but and they were protecting the Pitt, who was the kind of the hired hand, and Isabel too, and it didn't work the way I think that they intended it to, and
right.
I'm probably not going to be able to articulate this the way that I really would intend to, but it seemed cheap. It seemed kind of reductive, they boiled down to the white audience, here's really what you should know, what we think you should know about Native Americans, and here's a couple of things that a couple of parts of the culture and actions they do, and that's that.
It's kind of the equivalent of saying I have a black friend.
Yeah.
It's you can be open to the culture, and that's fine. But you could have done it without attempting to address it. It's just kind of, it's just cringy. It's a little cringy. It wasn't terrible. I mean, they didn't show them as employees or servants or anything like that. But it still was, you just didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah, it just didn't land the way that I think they intended it to, right. Or the way that I think they thought they were. I mean, I know One Stab narrates a lot of the film, but it's all about the Ludlow family.
Yeah.
And when Tristan's off in other parts of the world, it's quite literally through his eyes. Mm-hmm. And there's no celebration of culture. There's no really acceptance of culture. It's just kind of there through how this white family perceives them to be, right. Or even wants or needs them to be at some point. So it just you use the word right. It is kind of cringy.
Yeah. I said not and just tone deaf. It wasn't derogatory, I mean it wasn't as if they had all these Native American actors living in teepees and wigwams and but it wasn't too far from that. It was
there's definitely some unconscious bias with the filmmakers and how it went in here.
And so I could see that. I could see that for sure.
All right, well, Oz, that wraps the month, my friend.
Whew. Yeah, we are done with
that was a lot of romance that we've experienced the last month.
Very much so. I feel I've never felt my soul closer to my wife's than I have this month.
We're soulmates.
We are soulmates.
Just like Peter and Lee, we're soulmates from Secretary. She's my soulmate.
It drives my wife nuts because I get cheekishly romantic about stuff like that. I'll say that, and I mean every word of it, without getting into the whole goofiness of it. she's my favorite person in the entire world. But it cracks her up when I say things like that, like soulmate and my heart is yours, and really, I'll just text her during the day. I'll just be like, I love you and you're the wind beneath my wings, and she'll just text me back an eye roll emoji or something. But she's like, if you would have talked like that from the beginning, I wouldn't think twice of it. I'm like, I have been talking like that from the beginning.
You've only been paying attention to what you wanted to hear, baby.
But yes, yes, I say it tongue in cheek, but I do mean it.
Yeah.
So. All right, so we are wrapping up February, the month of love, and we're moving into March.
Yeah. What do we got in store for March, Oz?
We got 5 podcast weeks in March, 5 of them, and
I thought you were doing the John Cena there for a moment for our viewers watching.
Did you see me?
For our viewers just listening there, Oz pretty much did the John Cena. You can't see me.
Right? Yeah, I held 5 fingers up in front of the camera, and so 5 weeks, and we are going to do next month, not musicals, but movies about music.
Yes.
There's a difference. All right. These are not musicals. You're not going to catch a Sound of Music. You're not going to catch a West Side Story. These are not musicals. These are movies about music. All right. And Legends of the Fall was my pick for this week. So you get to kick off next month. You actually get 3 of the 5. So what are we watching next week?
We're gonna kick off movies about music with Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yes, I love that movie.
Oh yeah, so much fun. Edgar Wright. Yes, right in our wheelhouse there.
And Michael Cera in the most Michael Cera-esque role he could play. Yes, Edgar. Yeah, I love this movie. Matter of fact, Jenny asked, she goes, "What are you guys watching for next week?" And I go, "Scott Pilgrim versus the World." She goes, "Yeah, I'm out."
I think Melissa has a similar opinion about Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
I know it's a live action comic book movie.
Yeah,
but it's about music.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I think a lot of fun was put into the filmmaking of it as well. So, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. All right. Yeah. Well, we are going to wrap up our February, like we just said. We'll kick off next week with March. You've got us wherever you find us. We're on all your favorite podcast apps. We're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I meant to start off the show, but I'm going to end it. We do have our first Patreon patron, I suppose.
What the what?
What the what? So, Melissa, thank you for being a loyal fan. Yes, it just happens
Melissa
to be
from Woodstock, whoever you are.
Well, we thank you for being a loyal listener and fan and supporter of the show. You can find the Patreon link down below as well, whether it be in the podcast app you're listening to, our website, or the YouTube video. So if you also would like to become a subscriber, feel free. You can kick in a little bit to support the show. There's 2 tiers. The lower tier for $3 a month will get you a mention on the show, and the $6 tier gets you a mention on the show and access to our mini episodes, which we have yet to make any because we didn't have any subscribers. So
no, it's our first one.
We got to start on that. Yeah, we got to start on that. So, but looking at our time here, I know how much time we have left for the month of our subscription, and I don't want to pay extra for it because otherwise that would have been putting Melissa from Woodstock's money to use. But for Let's Talk About Flicks, I am Oz.
I'm Curtis.
And we will catch you guys next week. Thanks.